as you mentioned, I am an honorary consul of Georgia in the Philippines. My consular headquarters is officially in the most beautiful city in the Philippines, which is Baguio,
Wow.
northern Philippines, and so that's where I'm officially based. Although I live also in Manila a lot of most of the time.
And you travel the world a lot.
Yes, yes. That's part of what I do professionally as a tourism advocate, as a media practitioner as well. And but as you mentioned, today is a very important day for Georgia, May 26, because today is actually the 99th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence of the
Wow,
country.
so happy Independence Day
Thank you,
to
thank you,
Georgia.
sir, thank you.
99 years. Okay, so how was your work in the past many years being the consul of Georgia in the Philippines?
Well, my my relationship with Georgia goes back a long way. Maybe we're talking about over 15 years, basically.
Wow.
Yes, and we first started as a business association, which I founded in 2002.
Wow.
And so this acted as a vehicle for bridging the two countries. And from there, I was appointed in 2011. And all these years, we've been very active, and we've actually brought the country together in many, many different ways, through many different groups.
Wow, so you're now bridging Georgia in the Philippines. And how different are we as countries, and how similar are we as a people?
Well, I like to say Georgians and Filipinos are two peoples separated by vast distances, but united in common cause. And
the cause would be?
And friendship.
And friendship.
Yes, which we really have established over the years. And Georgians are very similar to Filipinos, very passionate, very fun-loving, very easy to get along with, warm, hospitable. So when you're in Georgia, you feel very much at home. The same way that these guys, when they come over to the Philippines, they feel very much at home here.
So how many Filipinos are already living in Georgia, as far as your knowledge is concerned?
Well, it varies, but today there's about not more than 2 or 3 dozen Filipinos there. But there is a big Philippine company that is operating in Georgia. I'm talking none other than ICTSI of Mr. Enrique Razon.
Wow.
They actually operate the port, the container terminal in Batumi Port, which is the biggest port in Georgia.
So aside from that Dewey Port, what other investment opportunities are awaiting Filipinos who would like to maybe invest their human resources and capital in the country of Georgia?
Hal, I'm glad you asked me that question because this is something that's actually, I've worked on this for quite some time. I'm also involved with some big multinationals, big Philippine multinational companies.
And you can name drop,
well,
of course.
I'm very much involved with San Miguel Corporation, and so I've been helping them expand the beer business there and all that. But the synergy I see between Georgia and the Philippines is not so much in the big corporates. It's in the small SMEs. I'm talking about the entrepreneurs, from small, medium-sized entrepreneurs, who, we Filipinos are very gutsy in the sense, especially the smaller guys.
So the smaller guys are more risk takers than risk averse.
I wouldn't say they're more risk averse. I'd say I put it this way: they see the value in investing in small new markets like Georgia, as opposed to, let's say, the big corporates who are after the big fish.
It could be the blue ocean where there's no competition yet, and it's an open opportunity for every Filipino who'd like to invest in that particular country.
Definitely, and I'll name one group where I've had a lot of success with dealing with this group, and I'm talking about none other than the Association of Filipino Franchisers Incorporated, AFI, or AFI for short. Now, this group is a very dynamic group of people because these are actually, as I mentioned, private businessmen who started their businesses, became very successful in the Philippines, and now
opened
they're
their businesses for franchising.
Yeah, and first in the Philippines.
In the Philippines alone.
First in the Philippines,
firstly.
and then now they've expanded overseas. And so one of the success stories, and there are many success stories, by the way, is a small food retail outlet called Potato Corner.
Wow.
Which started in the Philippines, and
it's just
went
a
all
push
over.
cart.
Yeah, I mean, it's
you
a
see it in
simple
every mall.
concept. Right?
Very simple
French
concept.
fries with flavor. And so, and so amazing how this country has grown. They're all over the United States now. They're in Australia. They're all over Asia.
Proudly
Fully
Filipino
global.
company.
Proudly Filipino.
In all parts of the world. Now opening up in Georgia.
Well, they're one of the companies we're bringing there, but one company in particular has made really a beachhead in Georgia already. I'm talking about none other than Fior Gelato. Sounds very Italian.
Yeah, it sounds
very Italian,
yeah,
but
very
it's,
Italian, but
it's 100% Filipino owned, proudly Filipino made, and the company is proudly Filipino. It's run by a very dynamic guy called Richie Cuna, and he's one of the founders of AFI. And actually, he is the first franchisor who's really, when I say making a beachhead in Georgia, as in he's already made substantial contacts. There's good, genuine interest on the ground for the company. He's even going there to hold a seminar in Caucasus University on entrepreneurship and franchising.
So how open are the minds of the people in Georgia when it comes to franchising and entrepreneurship?
You know, Howell, we Filipinos have had a lot of experience in this. In fact, we have a very dynamic retail slash franchising slash entrepreneur
And we have the
landscape.
entrepreneurial spirit
Absolutely.
in the barrios and in the provinces and the
Absolutely.
barangays.
That being said, Georgians are also very entrepreneurial, but I think that they can learn from our experience because we have actually been in the game longer. And so we really, as I mentioned, our entrepreneurs, our Filipino entrepreneurs are even going overseas now. And we're competing overseas.
It is glad, it's very joyful to hear that Filipino companies, Filipino SMEs are venturing and launching themselves out there and opening up in countries like Georgia.
And it's not just in the food business. Another company I want to mention, whom I'm working with to bring to Georgia, is this company called. They actually manufacture the e-comet vehicle. It's an electric vehicle. And it was made famous a few years ago because when Barack Obama came to the Philippines for a state visit, he actually, rode the e-comet. So this is a proudly Philippine-made, Philippine-assembled vehicle, and designed here in the Philippines. And it's piloting here in the Philippines in several cities, but we're bringing it to Georgia as well.
So how receptive is Georgia to our gelato and our potatoes and our e-vehicles?
Very open, very open. As I said, with regard to the retail outlets, there's a lot of interest.
And you mentioned something about another foreign-sounding Filipino company, which is
Figaro.
Yes, Figaro.
They're actually one of the success stories as well of AFI. Started out as a local, like a local coffee shop, kind of like Starbucks or something like that, no? But now also branching out overseas.
What do you see, aside from the opportunities, what are the threats that you can see people should be preparing themselves for when it comes to opening up businesses? What are the risks that they be faced?
Like any new market, it's always good to know the environment. It's always good to know how things are done, to know the ins and outs, and it's something very important to do is to really identify good people with whom to partner with. That is very important.
And it's very important that they hook with you and coordinate with you and work with you in order for them to have the right people who will be working with them in Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because I've been working with the country for a long time, and it's not a big country, so we more or less know who are the good guys to partner with, and I mean, it's a matter of finding the right match, the right fit between A and B, putting them together.
I agree.
Yeah.
So it's about demand and supply. And if there's no demand, you create a demand. You create a need for them to realize that, yes, I want those potatoes, I want that gelato, and I want that coffee.
The good thing about your gelato and potato corner is that everyone loves French fries and ice cream. So
Kids and adults alike.
yeah,
I agree.
there you go. Yeah.
And coffee.
And coffee
As well.
Yes.
So if I were a Filipino investor who would be thinking of expanding not only in some parts of the Philippines, but in other parts of the world, why Georgia? And then why not Australia? Why not New Zealand? Why not Malaysia or Indonesia?
Good question. I like to push Georgia because Georgia, I like to say, is the gateway to the Caucasus. You make it in Georgia, you can actually penetrate other markets in the region. We're talking about Azerbaijan, where there's a lot of money because of the oil and gas. We're talking about Turkey, Armenia, possibly even southern Russia.
So that could be a hub for you to
Absolutely.
expand further.
Absolutely. That's what we're pushing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And Georgia is actually considered, it's Eurasia. So,
Europe and Asia.
Asia and Europe, but it is actually, it really is part of Europe. In fact, the European Union recognizes Georgia as part
It
of
could
Europe.
be a gateway to Europe from Asia.
Definitely.
So if I were a Filipino, how much would I be needing to invest in Georgia?
It depends on the kind of business you're going to put up. It depends on the scale. It depends on your comfort level as far as risk is concerned. Georgia's very far. It's a country very far away, and it's something that's not too familiar with Filipino businessmen yet. But that's something we're trying to change.
How do they view the Filipinos and as a nation and as a culture? And the people?
Well, very positive. There's a good mix there, and as I said, I've been working very closely with a lot of groups there, pushing strategic partnerships and ties. I mean, that's how it starts. I mean, you build friendships, and then from the friendships come the business. And so, that being said, we've established the first sister cities and sister provinces to Georgia, and I've had a lot of success here working with different politicians in the Philippines. who are actually going to visit Georgia in maybe September, October this year.
Speaking of, how can a Filipino, an ordinary Filipino, visit Georgia? What would it take for them to visit Georgia?
It's easy. The process for visa applications online, and it's not hectic. And the requirements aren't stringent, so it's very easy to get a visa. But this I have to tell you,
Is
over
it
the last few
expensive to go
years,
there?
no. But over the last few years, we've been noticing there have been a lot of Filipinos visiting Georgia, coming from the Gulf states.
Not coming from the Philippines, but from the Gulf states.
More from the Gulf states,
Oh.
from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from Oman, from UAE. Because if you have a permanent residency or working visa in these countries, you can go to Georgia visa free. And it's so easy. From Dubai, it's 2.5 hours, 3 hours. From Qatar, Doha, it's about the same thing, about 3 hours.
And for our Filipino audience right now who are not familiar with Georgia, what is it in store for them when they spend 3 nights and 2 days, maybe 4 days in Georgia?
Well, first thing I have to say is too short. I mean,
Too short. 4 days
is
is too short.
Yeah. I mean, if you go to Georgia, I suggest maybe at least a week. And it's a fascinating country. It has something for everyone. Ecotourism is amazing because it's still very pristine. I mean, you can have actual wildernesses there and have an honest-to-goodness ecotourism experience.
Wow.
The food and wine is without match.
So the tour package is organized and well prepared.
Yes. A lot of.
So it's food and the.
It has to be the experiential.
They have to be immersed. They have
Absolutely,
to really be truly
because
be
that's the
immersed.
beauty of Georgia. It's a beautiful country on the outside, but then the traditions, the food and wine traditions, the mingling with the locals, that's actually what makes it special.
The first time you went there, what was the lasting experience and impression that it left you?
Well, I mean, definitely, it's
Could
all
that be
about.
second home for you?
Absolutely, it already is.
Galing, no?
Yeah, I'm there maybe twice a year, thrice a year.
So we have been talking about how we market the Philippines to Georgia. On the other hand, how can we market Georgia to Philippines aside from the tourism itself? What products do you have in Georgia which Filipinos might be interested in?
Yeah. Well, on top of my head, I can name wine, which is very good. They have very good Georgian wine, and if you believe the Wine Museum in London, they actually credit Georgians for inventing wine.
Wow.
Yes, and for a long time during the Soviet Union, all of this wine was popular in the East Bloc, but outside the East Bloc, it was relatively unknown. But now, since it's open, people are starting to discover Georgian wine, and so this is something I think you can bring here. Unfortunately, the cost is not that cheap compared to other New World wines, and so that's.
But would you say
something-
it's worth it?
Definitely worth it.
Definitely.
But that's something we're working on, introducing it here and perhaps finding a supplier that can bring down the cost and make it more affordable for Filipinos.
So today is the 99th year of independence.
No, 99th year
Of
the
Declaration
of Independence
for Georgia.
Yes.
So what's in store for the Georgia for the organizations who would be wanting to invest in this year, so that by the year 100, by the 100th year of the Declaration of Independence, they would say they would be glad to be part of the country.
Well, okay, this is what I have to say. There's a lot of optimism in Georgia because, Georgia is actually moving closer and closer to EU membership. In fact, just recently, Georgian citizens can
Yes,
now go
Georgians.
to travel to the EU, to the EU without visa.
Visa.
So Schengen. So it's going there. It's getting there. So placing now would be ideal because if you look 5 or 10 years in the future, when and if this country becomes a member of the EU, then you could benefit from the common economic community that you have over there, tax-free and all that.
And once they get to be a member, then opportunities for growth would be immense for the Filipino investors.
Definitely.
Okay.
And also, as I mentioned, in the Caucasus
Yes.
region, not just, let's even forget the EU for a moment. You're a country beside Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan is booming.
Wow. So the last 3 minutes of our show, it's called The Takeaway. Learning from your experience as a well-traveled consul of Georgia to the Philippines, in the Philippines.
In Baguio.
And which is in Baguio. So what would you like to leave our audience right now? The Filipino audience would like to visit and maybe invest their time, treasure, and talent in Georgia.
Definitely. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
The pleasure is ours.
Oh, I mean, on this special day, which is the 99th anniversary of the Declaration of Georgian Independence. I want to thank you for that. And I mean, for everyone watching out there, I hope you really, for tourists, travel to Georgia. You will not regret it. And for businessmen, please explore other markets like Georgia, because there are opportunities for those of you who are enterprising and would like to take the road less traveled, let's put it
Yes,
that way.
yes.
And rest assured that my office is always open, my phone is always open, 24/7. Get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to help.
The last question I'd be asking you would be, do you still sleep? I mean, do you find time to sleep? Because aside from being Consul of Georgia in the Philippines, you also have 3 NGOs.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
can you mention them
Well,
to us?
okay. I have a sports association called the National Bobsled, Luge, and Skeleton Association.
Okay.
Which is we're participating in winter sports in Europe. I also have the First Filipino Movement, and we champion first achievements by Filipinos all over the world.
Wow.
And number 3, we have Zoo Crew Philippines, which is a volunteer organization primarily based in Manila Zoo, but we help nature reserves and reservations all over the country.
And I'd like to focus on the 3rd NGO, which is the Zoo Crew.
Yeah.
So I've seen one of your Facebook updates about you taking care of those little kittens.
Yes,
tigers, yeah, tiger kitten. How do
They
you
look
call
like
them?
kittens, but
but they're tigers.
They're tigers.
So how's the condition of the animals?
It's very good. I mean, okay, Manila Zoo has received some bad rap, over the last few years, but it's not as bad as people think. It's actually, well managed, and we're there to help to even make it better.
I think Peter posted something about the elephant called
Mali.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Mali,
it's a
yeah.
very controversial issue, but rest assured, Mali is being well taken care of by the zoo and by the volunteers.
Wow.
And I want to mention, since you mentioned the zoo, we're actually making, in cooperation with some officials of Manila Zoo and the wildlife people here, are making a donation of 2 reticulated pythons from the Philippines to Tbilisi Zoo
Wow.
in Georgia. Yes, we're giving 2 pythons. So those will be the first Philippine wildlife species to be donated to the Caucasus region to Georgia.
Wow. So thank you so much for your involvement in not only giving back to the humanity, but as well at the same time promoting the Philippines to Georgia and promoting Georgia to the Philippines. So invite our viewers right now to join any of your NGOs as well.
Yes, please. Please contact us. The best way to do so is via Facebook, and we have people manning our Facebook message inboxes. So that's Zoo Crew Philippines. There's the First Filipino Movement, and there's the Philippine National Bobsled, Luge, and Skeleton Association for all of you guys there who want to learn how to bobsled. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Global Village, and I hope you enjoyed your trip to Georgia. Please do come visit Georgia. It's a fascinating, amazing country, and it'll be an experience you'll never forget. For more information, just visit www.georgiaconsulfield.com. Till next week, I'm Buddy Kunanan. You all have a good evening.